Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Yahoo Sports Daily. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. When we left the air yesterday, everyone was certain that the Rams would go take care of a Falcons team with nothing to play for, and we would be talking today about how wild the NFC is. Well, we're partly right. We are talking about how wild it is, but we're talking about how wild it is after the Falcons absolutely take it to the Rams in one of the more surprising outcomes we've seen in a second here. Surprising, Caroline, in part because how it looked. 27-24 is your final score in this one. But the Rams popped off to a big lead because Matt Stafford kept throwing to the wrong football team. Like, this was such a significant night that Vegas adjusted the MVP odds. They adjusted the Super Bowl odds. Everybody is shocked at what the Falcons did to the Rams last night.
It felt like the perfect cap on what was such a strange and weird and funky and throw everything that you know about these teams in the NFL type of weekend, right? Like after the slate that we've had since Christmas Day, it only felt right that Monday Night Football, whatever the heck day it is these days, that Monday Night Football finished up this week with a strange result, with Matthew Stafford playing the best football of his career. Matthew Stafford, the MVP favorite, really stinking it up, throwing 3 picks in a campaign this season where he was taking care of the football, where the Atlanta Falcons defense looked like one of the best in the NFL in the first half, where Bijan Robinson simply could not be stopped. That everything that we thought we knew about these teams. I thought the Rams were the best team in the NFC. I thought the Rams were one of the best teams in the NFL, and I don't think that your mind should be completely changed about either of these two teams simply based off of one result. But I feel drastically less confident in the Los Angeles Rams and their ability to go on a run and win a Super Bowl eventually based off of what we saw last night, Fitzy. Am I wrong in feeling that way? My mind isn't completely changed, but am I wrong for feeling less confident this morning in that team than I did 2 days ago?
No, I mean, look at the way this thing went down. And Bijan, by the way, absolutely chef's kiss. Over 200 yards of total offense for Bijan Robinson in this game, including a 93-yard touchdown run that was beautiful. He made everybody miss and then outran everybody to the end zone. I'm so amazed I forgot how to speak. Look, I think the defense, though, is a question mark for me. And we talk a lot about my love to take things in groups of 3. Well, if you look at the last 5 games, as you see there on the screen, the Rams have lost 3 of their last 5 games. They allowed 29.4 points per game in that span. When we talked about the significant weakness of each team in the NFC about a month ago, you correctly said that the only real weakness that the Rams have might be special teams. So they fire their special teams coordinator. Last night, they get a blocked field goal that turns into a touchdown, and they
That was awesome.
lose the game. Yeah, it was amazing.
I've never seen anything like that before.
I mean, Jared Verse throwing up the deuce, like that was a beautiful, beautiful moment. The thing is that now that their special teams aren't failing them, their defense is. They got gouged last night defensively. So I think there is reason for concern because certainly, look, we could put I love to say the yeah but. We could put the yeah but on most of these great teams in the NFC. But the yeah but right now for the Rams is how do you come out that flat in a game where you did have playoff positioning to play for? And yes, it was an outside shot, but you still had an outside shot at being able to make your playoff seeding better. So I'm a little stunned to see that version of a flat Rams team in this game.
And I would like to state this for the record. Even if the Rams had won this game last night, let's say Xavier Smith is able to come down with that ball on first down in the Rams' final possession of the game. Let's say the refs throw a flag for PI and that Tutu Atwell target, which I think it really was. It was PI, but that's beside the point. If Puka Nacua comes down with what could have been one of the most remarkable catches that I have ever seen on the sidelines. And I really thought that was a catch. I was incredibly emboldened that I thought it was a catch until they showed one of those angles and the ball just barely moved. And I thought, what a bummer. I feel like that should stand just because it was cool. Like if any of those things went the Rams' way and the Rams ended up winning that game, I would still share those concerns because I don't think that results should be the most important thing over process. But when we're talking about concern for the Rams, we're talking about some warts that have shown in this team over the last several weeks. Because like I said, I don't want to overreact to just one result, but it's not just one result for the Rams. They've lost 3 out of their last 5, and that's including on the road at the Carolina Panthers. And look, the Carolina Panthers might be a playoff team, but the Rams are a better team than the Panthers. The Rams are not peaking at the right time. In fact, they're kind of limping down the stretch. So it's not just one result. But I think we also have to point out here the Rams were without 2 of their 5 starting offensive linemen. The Rams didn't have Devontae Adams, and they also were down to third string members of their secondary. And what were the Rams' biggest issues last night? Well, they couldn't get the run game going. If your offensive line is at full strength, well, then maybe that story is different. Anyone outside of Puka Nacua struggled to make plays in the passing game. Okay, well, you add in Devontae Adams, it would be fair to think and to rationalize that the pass game looks better once you add Devontae Adams back in. Defensive injuries the same way. I mean, that Falcons team should not have been carving up that Rams defense the way that they did, specifically in the first half. So I think there's 2 ways to look at it. One, the Rams are limping down the stretch, and the Rams don't look like the most dominant team in the NFL like they looked for so long. But also, there are several things that you can point to say that's why they don't look this way.
It's amazing how standing around and looking at a ball in the end zone that was recovered on a Thursday night football game for the winning 2-point conversion is the difference between playing for a 1 seed, like Seattle is doing, or finding yourself battling for the 5th or the 6th seed. That is this game. That is just absolutely this season in the NFL. So let me ask you, I mentioned the buts. Now that we've got all of it laid out, the NFC West is absolutely epic. We know that. The Rams, we're talking about them like they're a fail, but they're 11-5, right? We've got the 49ers taking on the Seahawks, and a winner gets the number 1 seed in the NFC matchup this weekend. Which of those 3 teams, Seattle, San Francisco, or the Rams, do you think can best go on a long playoff run?
I still think it's the Rams.
No, I knew you were gonna do it. I knew it.
Is that icky for me to say after they got worked by the Falcons and went down 21-0? Like, is that ridiculous for me to say? I do think if I had to pick a team that goes furthest in the NFC, I do think that team resides in the NFC West. If you want to say it's the 49ers, if you want to say it's the Seahawks, I don't think you're wrong because I trust any of these 3 teams. But when it comes down to it, I was kind of mentally battling between the Rams and the Niners. And the difference for me is I don't believe in the Niners defense, how they're playing right now. Right now, the Niners' best defense is the way that their offense is playing. I don't think that's sustainable in the postseason, and I don't think that you can win 4 games in a row with Brock Purdy looking like the best quarterback in the NFL and putting up 5 touchdowns a game. Same thing with Seattle. I'm so concerned about Sam Darnold putting together 4 great games and Sam Darnold not making a fatal mistake in the postseason. With the Rams, like I just said, I can point to a few reasons as to why the Rams weren't playing their best brand of football on Monday Night Football. Am I concerned about the Rams defense? Heck yeah, I am. Am I concerned about the way that Matthew Stafford's been playing down the stretch? Absolutely. You can't turn the ball over 3 times and expect to beat anybody in the NFL, much less going on the road at San Francisco or going to Soldier Field and taking on the Bears. But when it comes down to it, who do I trust the most? It's Sean McVay. When it comes down to it, if I need a big play, if I need to put the ball in anybody's hands, I'm going to put it in Matthew Stafford's hands. So as silly as it might sound, waking up on Tuesday morning after the Rams lost to a not very good Falcons team, I think it's still the Rams.
Yeah, the thing of it is, I think wherever you walked into this, nothing has changed your opinion on it in general, you as in all of us, because I can't get past the lack of a pass rush from the 49ers defensively. Like, I have so much respect for the job that Shanahan has done and for the offense for the 49ers. I can't get past that. So now I'm just suddenly looking at like, all right, this is really a Rams versus Seahawks conversation, right? Like, to me, I came into all of this saying, I think I prefer the Seahawks in it, but you're right. I'll call myself out for it. Like, I love proof of concept. When have we ever seen Sam Darnold go in and have that moment, or Mike McDonald either, like their head coach? Like, we've seen the Rams. Like, look at the way the playoffs, if the playoffs started today, the Rams did have a first-round matchup in Philadelphia. I think we all know that against this version of the Eagles team, considering the Rams' fight last year in the snow against that version of the Eagles team, yeah, the Rams can beat the Eagles. And then the Rams would get the Seahawks. We've seen how crazy those Rams-Seahawks games are. So I think you're probably right. Wildly, I'm not sure that even though all of this has looked a little broken for the Rams, I'm not sure they aren't still the favorite. We have plenty more to come, including Frank Schwab. We'll get his thoughts. Let's see how the power rankings change. But coming up next, it's almost the end of the year, so it's time for the very first Yahoo Sports Daily 2025 awards. I'm going to give out some dailies next. Oh, it is time for the very first Dailies. Yahoo Sports Daily presents the Dailies, our annual award for the best things that we saw throughout the course of 2025. As the year comes to a close, we've looked back at the entire sports calendar. We found all sorts of different nominees, and we will go through them. Caroline, this feels pretty amazing. I mean, there was no red carpet coming up to the office today, but maybe next year we
There
get
wasn't?
red carpet substantial.
You didn't have one?
Not for me.
I did. There were
as usual,
photographers literally everywhere.
No, that's par for the course there. No photographers.
Gotten the wrong address.
Yeah, that is
weird. It'll be on the cover.
Okay, let's get to.
Magazines.
Okay, there we go. Let's get to our first. Thank you. Let's get to our first category here. We've got 4 categories you're going to see. You're going to see best athlete, best team, best moment, and best story. So let's start with best athlete. And the nominees for best athlete are Shohei Ohtani, Asia Wilson, SGA, Josh Allen, Cooper Flagg. Let's look at some of these. I mean, obviously, Shohei, given everything we saw in the World Series, given everything we saw in Shohei Mania, I think Shohei's obviously here. Asia, though, like, I don't want to sleep on the season that the Las Vegas Aces had. I don't want to sleep on the dominance of Asia Wilson, particularly if you want to talk about an athlete dominating their respective sport. Asia has to be in this finalist conversation.
I mean, Asia Wilson just won her 4th league MVP, her 3rd championship with the Las Vegas Aces. And I think what adds even more context to that season that Asia Wilson had and the Aces had was the Aces were kind of dead to rights in the middle of the season. You know, Sandra Negley and I on Hoops 360 were talking about how the Aces just were not a very good basketball team and the dynasty was over. And then Asia Wilson powered this massive late season comeback. I mean, Asia Wilson is the foundation and is the focal point of the Aces, which is the modern dynasty in the WNBA. So much credit to the season that Asia Wilson has had. She has done so much for the WNBA. She is the face of the league.
Well, and that's where we get to some of the argument that everybody's going to have about the decision to nominate SGA, because NBA heads are going to come at us about whether or not SGA is even the best player in the association. I don't know. If I'm trying to pick for the year 2025, the most dominant athlete, the best athlete in their sport, SGA wins an MVP. He leads his team to just an absolute dominant run through a season that we've already seen, through a championship we've already seen. Yeah, I know OKC's lost a couple of games of late, but I'm still watching OKC come in and dominate. Like, I get that SGA isn't as sexy on the highlights as some of the other guys in the league, but my God, when you are the reigning MVP coming off of the reigning league champion and you are on the best team in the league and you're still dominating, like, when SGA plays well, OKC wins by a lot. Like, this is very simple. So, I hear you, NBA heads that want a consideration for everybody else in this process. We talk a lot about Wemby. We talk a lot about Jokic on this show. Like, there's plenty of other NBA players that can be considered. I have a hard time picking anybody over an MVP, though.
1000%. And this is the best athlete of 2025. This is the 2025 Dailies. And you can't tell the story of the 2025 NBA season without SGA being at the top of that conversation. And we were looking at one of the most dominant teams that we've seen in the NBA in quite some time. And it was led by SGA. So I hear you, Jokic heads. I hear you, Luka heads. I hear you, LeBron heads. That, sure, we can have the conversation about who is the best player in the NBA right now. But when you tell the story of the 2025 season, it's SGA. And then when we talk about Josh Allen as well, if we want to talk about the MVP conversation, Josh Allen, the reigning league MVP, and he hasn't stepped back very much. Josh Allen still is top 3 in MVP odds, rightfully so.
All right, so Caroline, you, my friend, get the honor. There can be only one winner. Who is our winner for the first ever daily we've ever given out for the best athlete?
Drum roll, please. And the daily goes to Shohei Ohtani. And Fitz, yes, the crowd goes wild. The crowd goes wild. When you look at all of our nominees, Asia Wilson, SGA, Josh Allen, Cooper Flagg, the number 1 overall pick. I mean, it's crowded at the top there. We picked Shohei Ohtani unanimously.
Yeah, I mean, this is all about just when you're seeing something you've never seen before and you're not sure you'll ever see again, when you see dominance at 2 different positions in a sport, when you see what he meant to this team, not just through the course of the regular season, but then particularly what we all watched with absolutely holding our breath through the entire World Series. I mean, I genuinely believe that when we look back on the story of 2025 from a sports landscape perspective, the thing we will be talking about for 20, 30, 40 years, the thing you'll tell your grandkids about, was what you saw this year from that man. So to me, this was the easiest. When we started our decision-making process and everyone said best athlete, I laughed as I said, it's got to be Shohei, right? Like, there was just not even a moment of hesitation for me. And I know you were the same.
1000%. We've seen Shohei Ohtani do something that has never been done before in Major League Baseball history several times. And it's the 3 home run, 10 strikeout game for me. We have never seen dominance on both sides like that before. Frankly, Fitz, I don't think we're ever going to see it again. And there are young baseball players globally that are going to try and follow the Shohei Ohtani model and be an elite pitcher on the mound and be elite at the plate. But what we've seen from Shohei Ohtani looks almost inimitatable. Is that a word? So 1000% Shohei Ohtani is the best athlete on the planet this year.
I think unattainable. Well, either way. All right, let's get to our next category.
That's what
the next category is best team. Let's reveal our nominees for best team for the dailies. We have the LA Dodgers. Obviously, we were just talking about the Las Vegas Aces. You mentioned a historic run. The Florida Panthers, back-to-back. All right, hockey guy, we got you in here. The Philadelphia Eagles, who did the unthinkable back earlier this season and absolutely dismantled the Chiefs for a Super Bowl. And the Oklahoma City Thunder, who we've given some love to here. Florida Panthers, I do want to stress, like, we looked at this and we're like, oh, my God. You almost forget that Florida has gone back-to-back. Their dominance has been slept on a little bit. Want to make sure that we give hockey guy a little bit of love for what that means, and particularly their dominance in getting back-to-back cups. I feel bad for Edmonton through the process of continually losing these things, but I have to give the Panthers some love.
I wholeheartedly believe that Stanley Cup is the most difficult trophy to win in sports. argue with the wall if you disagree with me. Yeah, the grind of a hockey season, the physicality of postseason hockey, getting there is so incredibly difficult. Like you said, just ask Edmonton. To win back to back is wildly impressive. And when you look at the rest of these nominees, the Los Angeles Dodgers, yes, what we saw in the World Series was so fun and it was back and forth and it was the difference of a hair. But the reason why the Dodgers are in this, not obviously not just back-to-back World Series champions, but with the ease with which the Dodgers got through the NL in the postseason is absolutely insane. The Aces again winning their third championship. I mean, they kind of the difference was a margin in the postseason as well, but the dominance of that team, how good they looked down the stretch. The Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl champions, sure, limping down the stretch here in the 2025 season, but in 2024, the Eagles at times looked so unbeatable. A dominant Super Bowl win against a team that had everything ahead of them to be, to three-peat in the Kansas City Chiefs. It's special teams that we've seen this year.
All right, so give us a winner. There can only be one. I'll give you the drum roll.
Drum roll, please. And the winner is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Not only were they NBA champions, but also they've followed that up with another start to the NBA season, the 2025-2026 season. They look like they could go back to back. They look like they could absolutely obliterate the best record in the history of the NBA. So Fitz, Oklahoma City Thunder looking like it's a dynasty in the making.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of why this one stood out to me is because, frankly, not only their dominance through the regular season and then their absolute dominance that they showed throughout the postseason. Of course, we know all of that. But then that dominance is carried over into this season, too. So when we're looking at a full calendar year, as much as I respect what everybody else has done, it feels like OKC has just picked up right where they left off. And because of that, OKC sort of stands out to me, best team, just because it wasn't for just last season. It's also for this season. Let's get to our next category here. Let's get to our nominees that we have for best moment, the best moment in sports this year. Now, we have OV setting the goal record. Absolutely incredible. Never thought it would happen. Cooper DeJean's incredible, impossible pick six in the Super Bowl that we'll never forget. The Dodgers Game 7 comeback. Rory winning the Masters. And we had to throw this one in here. Fernando Mendoza's interview after winning the Big Ten championship game that absolutely took the world by storm.
This was, I think, the hardest category that we were brainstorming. This was also my favorite because once you get to the end of the year, you start to forget things that happened throughout the course of the year. So to be able to walk down memory lane with all of the amazing things that we've seen happen in 2025 was so fun. Rory winning the Masters, I felt like everyone across the globe was cheering him on. That it felt you could feel the weight lifted off of his shoulders after having years and years of having the moniker of choking in the biggest moments, of constantly knocking on the door but never coming through. Just look at that. You could feel just that moment of just basking it all in, the weight lifting off of him, of finally having that moment of glory. And Fernando Mendoza's interview, it was so sweet. I think the whole world fell in love with Fernando Mendoza. The emotion, just the pure childlike joy almost that Fernando Mendoza spoke with about his team, about his coach, about what that moment meant to him. But it wasn't just the interview. It was the moment that I think everyone across America thought, okay, yep, that team's legit. Indiana winning the Big Ten for the first time in program history and taking down the big bad Ohio State Buckeyes, the reigning national champions, to do it when I think everybody had just a little bit of doubt about how good this Indiana team actually was. They proved themselves on the national stage. So it wasn't just how sweet and precious the interview was. It was the moment as a whole for Indiana, their coming out party.
So there can be only one winner. Announce it, my friend.
Drum roll, please, Fitzy. And the winner of the Daily for the best moment in sports this year is the Los Angeles Dodgers in Game 7. Woo! Fair to say that's the greatest Game 7 that we've ever seen. Maybe not even just in the history of baseball, but in the history of sports.
Yeah, that was the single greatest ending to a game 7 that has ever happened in sports. And I will never forget, and I'll never really be able to comprehend what it's like to see the ending of a game 7, when we get into late innings and everybody's just sitting there watching a replay, trying to figure out who's safe and who isn't safe. I'll never forget watching the ball get bumbled around and then somehow finally watching a play get made. When you think about the improbable things that happened towards the end of that game 7, and then you think about just the down to the wire photo finish that we're talking about. I cannot just get out of my mind the drama. As somebody that didn't really have a rooting interest one way or the other, and I'm just watching it because I love sports. As much as the other stories you've talked about have been incredible, seeing that ending to a game 7. We'll have other Masters moments, and it doesn't take anything away from Rory and how beautiful that is. But we'll have other moments. We will have other record-setting moments. There will be every year. There will be somebody that comes up like in Indiana that gives you the opportunity for a great story. A game 7 in the World Series with a brand like the Dodgers and a star like Shohei that ends with that sort of photo finish. Even if Major League Baseball tried to write a game 7 ending, they couldn't have written that. Even if they tried to fix game 7 to be the most dramatic it could be, they couldn't have executed it that well. It was truly better than a movie. It was better than a script. It was better than a documentary, and it was all real, and it was all intense, and it was all in that moment. I've never seen anything like it. I honestly, I've never truly been a baseball fan, and now I cannot wait for it because that sort of moment just sucks you in to how beautiful the sport can be.
And that game 7 comeback, that ending, the way that game ended was the perfect cherry on top of what was an absolute blast of a series in the World Series. It was like a David and Goliath moment was the perception between the Blue Jays and the Dodgers. So for it all to come down to literally inches, we always talk about games of inches. That was one of them. And for that to be the difference between a championship on the line, the Blue Jays breaking their championship drought, or the Dodgers going back to back with the first time that it had ever happened in Major League Baseball in over 2 decades. What was on the line for both of these two teams in the process that we had? Game 3 going into the wee hours of the night, we saw clashes of the Titans, absolute superstars that we have in the league. Vlad Guerrero Jr. versus Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts. Everything about that World Series, I felt like took not just the United States, but also Canada by storm. And for a sport and a league in Major League Baseball that's been lacking in popularity over the last, let's say, decade plus, for the entire country to be tuned in to not just one, not just two, but all 7 games, I felt like in that series, it was the perfect ending to what was a beautiful championship series.
Let's get to our last category that comes in, and this category is best story. Now, this is where a little bit of editorial lenience comes in because we were given the option of best story, and because the two of us love some drama, there's plenty of drama in best story. Indiana football, you mentioned. We put Indiana football in here as one of the best stories in sports because it's easy to remember that about a year ago, nobody took Indiana football seriously. Look at where we are now. Also, easy to forget that Luka was traded to the Lakers in February of 2025. That feels like it was 18 years ago. It was not. But now we get into the more fun stuff, too. For Best Story, we've also nominated Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson. Who couldn't nominate that? It's a story that keeps on giving. Lane Kiffin, can't imagine how Lane Kiffin made it in here. Best Story, think of how many days in a row we got to talk about your head football coach. And then, of course, I don't want to forget the story that absolutely ruled months of the summer, fall. Micah being traded by Jerry Jones. Oh, the football season started off with that level of – this one's tough. I'm going to be honest. There's a lot of good – tough from a sports standpoint and from that, Bravo standpoint.
This is truly a lifetime series, a Bravo show, reality TV show. And I always say, I think the reason why we love sports isn't just the on the field, battle, isn't just the X's and O's of it all. We are all gluttonous for a good soap opera. That's exactly what sports are. That's exactly what we've gotten from some of these stories. I mean, Luka to the Lakers, when Luka was traded, we were all in New Orleans for the Super Bowl. Luka being traded to the Lakers superseded Myles Garrett in a potential trade, superseded the Chiefs potentially three-peating, the Eagles. Like, it superseded every story that was right in front of us at the Super Bowl and became the number one topic of conversation, which is incredibly impressive. And I mean, the Micah trade, how would we have gotten through, the desert of the summer without Jerry Jones and Micah Parsons laying on the training table in the preseason, Jerry Jones and everything he was saying on the radio, and all of the drama that comes whenever Jerry Jones has a contract to settle. And then Lane Kiffin. What about Lane Kiffin, you ask? Everything about Lane Kiffin. Leaving Ole Miss before the playoff run and going on the Pat McAfee show and talking about hot yoga for 15 minutes. The man is just a walking Bravo series. But Fitz, there can only be one. Drum roll, please. Thank you. And the Dailies winner of the best story in sports this year. This should come at zero surprise for anybody that has been watching this show, at least for a little bit in our existence. The winner is Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson. Woo! Yes. And it really goes back to that night. The night that Jordan Hudson was wearing Bill Belichick's Super Bowl rings and was wearing a beautiful yet revealing dress. She was the story of the NFL awards back in New Orleans at the Super Bowl, and it's only compounded from there. When it came out about her real estate portfolio and the ring camera footage at the Airbnb and the, CBS Sunday Morning interview and the fact that she became the CEO of Belichick Productions, whatever the heck that is, this has been the story that just continues to deliver all year long. Chef's kiss, Fitzy.
Shout out, by the way, spent some time after you had mentioned it, looked at the Vice documentary on this that was on TV. It's on the Vice. They did a documentary, a 1 hour show on this. And I'm just sitting there flipping through, watching the thing, and all of a sudden, boom, I see our faces. That's right. That's how much we were talking about it. It made it into the Vice documentary, rightfully so. Look, we could all think whatever you want. Maybe that's why this is best story. Because if you don't care, you still care. If you do care, you care a lot. If you think it's not a big deal, you're talking about it. If you think it's a huge deal, you're talking about it. The best stories are the ones that no matter which side of the fence you're on, you put 10 people in a room, nobody can really agree on all of it, but everybody has to talk about it. That is Belichick and Jordan Hudson. And this story is also not going anywhere. Frankly, I cannot wait to watch this couple just continue to dominate the news cycle year in and year out. That's our first ever Dailies award. I keep hearing a crowd cheer every time. There's no people here. So all I can tell is that there's obviously a crowd with Caroline and an entire group of paparazzi. So as usual,
they all say hi.
Yeah,
they're all waving. You can't see them because they're all in front of me, but they all look amazing. Thank you all so much for being here tonight.
Yeah, I'll never forget the time I actually did walk a red carpet in my life, and I was asked to move to get out of the way of pictures for somebody else. So that's how things go.
Mean.
You know what,
Fitz, we would never do that to you on the Daily's red carpet. You are front and center, my friend.
Although it's Yahoo, so next year Daily's purple carpet. We'll make it happen. Let us know what you think. Let us know what we got wrong. Let us know what we got right. Be sure to chime in and let us know what you think and who should have won some awards. In the meantime, always an award winner on this show. We'll roll out the purple carpet next. Frank Schwab going to join us. The power rankings come out every single week. Has he finally made changes at the top, or will he continue to be stubborn? We will tell you next. It is that time. So power rankings are here. Frank Schwab joins us every single week to give us his power rankings. Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitz, and this is where we destroy them. We spend every week destroying Frank, and yet every single week, he's like me watching the Raiders. He comes back for it every week, and nobody knows why. We have a long time until we will get to the Raiders on this list, Frank. But let's start at the top of your list, my friend. By the way, Merry belated Christmas to you and yours. Happy New Year's. Thanks for hanging out with us. Let's take a look at the top four. The top four here, we have a change. The Seattle Seahawks remain at number one. The Denver Broncos vault their way up to number two. The New England Patriots, who have as many wins over 500 or better teams as the New York Giants do this year, vault up to number three. And the LA Rams, after losing on Monday Night Football, free fall 2 spots to 4. Frank, did one loss change your opinion of the Rams that much?
Not just the one loss, but now it combines with the loss last week. I did not move them after collapsing against the Seahawks. I said, you know what, the Rams are still a really good team. And then you just lay an egg last night. I mean, they were lucky to be in that game. When you get a blocked field goal for a touchdown and still lose a game, you got destroyed. Really, like you need to win that game if you're the Rams, and they couldn't do it. By the way, that Puka Nacua catch by the sideline that looked like a catch, but then it wasn't. That would have gone down as like a top 5 all-time catch. Like I couldn't believe what I was seeing on my screen, and then he bobbled it just a little bit. But anyway, yes, the Rams moved down just because it kind of compounds a little bit. Like, okay, your last 6 or so quarters of football have been really, really bad. I still think the Rams are good. I wrestled with this. I thought about keeping them at number 2, but I thought they deserved to move down a little bit. Not that the Broncos or Patriots necessarily deserve to move up, but I still believe in the Rams. I just had to put them on timeout a little bit. They're grounded for a week.
I thought that catch could have counted just because it was cool. I think we need to have some space, some wiggle room in the NFL to make things. That should be
the replay review. Awesome. You know what? It was cool enough. We're gonna just get.
I love the idea of a ref actually opening the mic and saying, "Hey, not really sure, but we're gonna rule this a catch, and all of you complaining at home, your fat ass couldn't do it, so don't stop us." Like I love the idea of this just happening. Just go ahead.
Yeah, I think we need to just have a little bit of wiggle room here in the NFL. But I want to stick with 3 and 4. We just saw Drake May have a near flawless game. Then we had Matthew Stafford lay an egg and throw 3 picks against a not very good Atlanta Falcons team. Did Matthew Stafford lose himself the MVP last night?
Yeah, I think he did. And that stinks because, you know, he is a sentimental choice. This is probably his last shot at MVP. It was going to be a cool story for him to win it at 37 for the first time. But I sit here and I always say this about power rankings, about how I feel about MVP, anything. I try not to be a prisoner of the moment because we do that all the time when we talk about the NFL. It's like people wanted me to move the Denver Broncos way down last week after losing to Jaguars. I'm like, guys, they're 10-1 in the last 11 games. Like it's okay to not just freak out about one game because everybody behind him on this list has lost games too. And same with Matthew Stafford. You say, well, he had a bad game, sure, but he's had a great season. But it has been, I believe he's thrown, 9 interceptions the last 5 games or something like it's. He's really kind of, his play is dropping a little bit right now. Well, Drake May is getting better. He career high 380 yards against the Ravens 2 weeks ago. Career high 5 touchdowns against the Jets, who barely are in the NFL anymore, but still 5 touchdowns and a career high. So I think Drake May's playing better. Matthew Stafford's playing worse. You almost have to be a little bit of recency bias there to say, yeah, Drake May not only is going to win MVP, but at this point, I guess I haven't really decided where I stand, but I do think he deserves it at this point too.
Drake May, MVP on the field, and Michael May, MVP off the field. Let's get into our next grouping of rankings, 5 through 8. San Francisco up to 5 from 11. Quite the jump there. 6 spots. Jacksonville at 6. Chicago down 2 at 7. The Houston Texans at 8. Let's stick with San Francisco. Up 6 spots. But it may be deserved based off of what we saw from Brock Purdy, a 5-touchdown performance against the Chicago Bears. What did you learn about San Francisco this past week?
See, and the thing is, the reason I had them at 11 is because I didn't believe in the defense. And I just kept saying that. Also, they hadn't beat anybody good. The Bears are their first quality win since the Rams back in week 5. If you look, everybody talks about the Patriots schedule. The 49ers caught in a very easy schedule too. But what did I learn on Sunday night is their offense is great and their defense stinks, which I already knew that. But at some point, you just have to kind of give in and just say, I don't know how Kyle Shanahan's doing this, coach of the year, by the way, but they win every week. I keep saying they can't keep winning with this defense. They can't keep winning with this defense. And then they do. And they're 13-3. Injuries have ravaged them and they just keep winning. Even on Sunday night, Trent Williams goes out on the first play. George Kittle is out. You're talking about the greatest offensive tackle ever, perhaps, and one of the greatest tight ends ever. And they still are just like, okay, we're still going to put up 42 points. It doesn't matter. Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy are on such a heater right now that I had to move them up. I had to correct the wrong. Look, I resisted for a long time. Said this defense can't do it. But at some point, it's just like your offense is so good, it doesn't matter. And I don't particularly like these teams. I do have a bias against teams that just play no defense whatsoever. I don't like watching Big 12 football. I just don't do that. But this team is really good. And in this flawed NFL, it's like, why not the 49ers? Why can't the 49ers maybe win just 2 home games to make a Super Bowl if they beat the Seahawks on Sunday? So I will say I'm picking the Seahawks to win this week. I think the Seahawks do take the NFC West, take the number 1 seed. But it is my bias against teams that don't play defense like the 49ers.
Where are you on the Jags and the Texans? Because these are 2 teams you've got closely power ranked. These are 2 teams in the same division. Which one do you think has a better shot at a real, deep, tangible playoff run?
And I only have to say the Jaguars because I believe they're going to be division champs to get a home game. It's just so much easier. 1 home game versus 3, going on the road 3 straight weeks. I don't know that the Texans can do that. But if they all played on a neutral field, if we did just like the NCAA tournament where, you're going to Boise, Idaho to play the first round of games, I think I would take the Texans. I just love their defense. Their defense is unbelievably good. Ask Justin Herbert. Like, he was getting crushed that entire game. But I'll give the Jaguars credit too. They're just playing better and better and better. And you get to the point where nobody's talking about the Jaguars making a deep run, right? Kind of because of Jaguars, kind of because we don't all trust Trevor Lawrence yet. But I watch that team every week and I say, who's playing better than the Jacksonville Jaguars right now? Like, every week they go out, look good. They're beating good teams. They pass the eye test, all this kind of stuff. They're going to win their division. They're going to end up 13-4, I believe. Why not the Jaguars making a deep run? So I have them very close, and I think that I just prefer the Texans with the way they play. That defense is so good. But why not the Jaguars making a run? They could beat the Broncos. We saw that a couple weeks ago. They could beat the Patriots. Why not? Like, there's no team the Jaguars can't beat to go all the way to a Super Bowl.
And to that point, we'll go to the next 4, but I will say every single one of these 4 that you have right here at 5 through 8, if you told me they were going to go on a Super Bowl run, I'd be like, all right, this year, it's a weird year.
Yep.
9 through 12, I don't believe in – these are bigger brands, teams that we expected more of, and I can find a fatal flaw that keeps every single one of these teams out of that same conversation. Like, I don't know. You got the Bills down 3 here. Eagles, Bills, Chargers, Packers. You've got the Bills down 3. I don't know what the hell to make of the Bills, Frank. Like, if you told me the Bills were going to go to the Super Bowl, I'd say, okay, cool. If you told me the Bills were going to be one and done and out in the first game, I'd say, okay, cool. I don't know what to make of them.
Absolutely. I mean, you just lost to an Eagles team at home that had 16 yards in the second half. Like, I can't get that excited. I understand why anybody would pick the Bills. You just say, I'm going to pick the best quarterback in football to go through the playoffs and make a Super Bowl. Why is that so tough? Okay, understandable. Josh Allen is a superhero. I get it. He can carry a team. James Cook's very good, by the way, too. But this defense is not very good, unless you're playing the Eagles, I guess. And the rest of that offense, they just don't scare anybody on the outside. What's their number 1 pass target right now? Khalil Shakir? Like, I like Khalil Shakir, but like as a number 3. They just don't. They don't threaten you on the outside whatsoever. It causes defenses they can play a certain way because they just don't respect anybody. They don't have a JSN. They don't have a Justin Jefferson. They don't have anybody where you fear that all week. You're just like, whatever. Dawson Knox ain't going to beat us downfield. We're fine. Josh Allen's awesome, but I don't trust the Bills. And you're right about the rest of these teams. This is kind of the what if, group. What if Micah Parsons and Tucker Kraft stay healthy? Because I think the Packers' ceiling just dropped so far. We could see that. We could see that against the Ravens. This is not the same team. They look like a one-and-done team to me. I've said this for a while now. I think the Chargers would be clearly the best team in football if their offensive tackle stayed healthy. Not just like we'd be talking about, is this an all-time great team? I'm not even lying. I think they'd be like 14-2 right now if their offensive tackle stayed healthy, but they didn't, and they can't block anybody. So that's a fatal flaw for them. The Eagles are just, again, 16 yards in the second half. you serious? That's not against the Bills defense, which isn't even good. Like, we're not talking about them playing the Texans. That's not even NFL football at that point. 0 completion, 16 yards in a full half of football. The Eagles' offense is just unwatchable. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard for me to completely cross off the Eagles as far as a playoff run goes, because they're the Eagles and their defense is really good. And who knows? Maybe they can get it going. But yeah, these teams all have issues they're just not getting fixed.
If a unit could win league MVP, the Eagles defense should. Because the fact that they've had 3 games with 5 passing yards and a half, and they are 3-0 in those games is truly impressive. It's so bad that it's impressive. But I want to look at the Packers for a second, because you mentioned that their ceiling just fell significantly, and I don't disagree with you. So why are they staying pat at 12?
It's just one of those things where who behind them deserves to move up. Like, I thought about it. I thought about the Packers are more like, they felt to me more like this is like the 14th, 15th best team of football. And then I looked behind them and I said, all right, well, nope, they're 12. Like, none of these teams deserve to move up. So the Packers stay at 12. I don't think they're a bad team. I don't. I think they're a perfectly fine. They're deserving of making the playoffs. They're the exact same team they have been the past couple of years, which is you have a bunch of really good players, and you don't have enough great players to make a playoff run. And I that stinks for the Packers, but I just don't see them going anywhere. Now, I say that everybody's flawed this year, so maybe they make a run. If they play the San Francisco 49ers, they could put up 42 points and beat them, because the 49ers can't stop anybody. It's stuff like that. So if they play the Eagles, like, I don't think you're worried about the Eagles offense killing you. So they could make a run just based on that, but just as a team, they're once again a good team that's not good enough to do anything in the playoffs.
All right, let's get to our next grouping of rankings. 13 through 16, we've got the Steelers, the Panthers, the Ravens, and the Vikings. And we have a matchup for
Look at this group. Like, which of these teams should move up ahead of the Packers? That's what I did last night. I'm like, really? The Steelers? Oh, okay, you just lost to the Browns. Anyway, go on, Caroline.
That's like like a main line of demarcation, line in the sand in the NFL power rankings there. Let's look at Steelers, Ravens. It all comes down to week 18, and I love that we get football that matters in week 18, especially when it comes between one of the best rivalries in the NFL and the Steelers and Ravens. If you had to hitch your wagon to one of those two teams, Ravens, Steelers, who are you hitching it to?
That wagon is broke down at the side of the road, by the way. We're not moving anywhere. Yeah, I'll say this. I'm not hitching my wagon to any team, but which one am I de-hitching? Can I do it? I'm out on the Ravens, and maybe I'm still mad that they were so disappointing as my Super Bowl pick. But okay, fine. They played great one game against the Packers. I've watched them the first 16 weeks of the season play a lot worse than that. Like, okay, they had one good game. So what? It's one good game out of 17 weeks. They're not a good football team. They're just not. And the whole Lamar Jackson drama, and everybody, by the way, everybody who was like, why did the Ravens do this every week with Derrick Henry? Well, maybe it's because he's 31 years old and he can't handle 36 carries a game. Like that, let's be a little realistic about this. Like, come on. Like, what are we doing here? They just decided, we need to win this game. We need to give Derrick Henry the ball as much as we can. And I think it was a little bit of a passive-aggressive John Harbaugh. Oh, you're going to criticize me all week for not giving Derrick Henry the ball enough? Here you go. Here's 36 carries for the big dog. So great for them to be alive right now. I do think they probably maybe beat the Steelers on Sunday night. I just don't know. By the way, that game is so fascinating, not because of who makes the playoffs, because both of these teams stink. But you think about whoever loses this game. John Harbaugh gone? Is Mike Tomlin gone if they lose? Is Lamar Jackson going to be traded? Is this Aaron Rodgers' last game? Do the Steelers completely rebuild? We talked about this on Inside Coverage last night. And it's a fascinating game, not in that one of these teams makes the playoffs, because who cares? Neither of these teams make a Super Bowl. But what happens to the losing team? The narratives are just completely going to flip based on the result of one game on Sunday night. It's great theater. It's really good theater.
Stick there, though, for Frank. I'll ask you this, right? Either, neither, or both. I know we got to keep moving, but either, neither, or both, right? Either, neither, or both. Steelers, Ravens fire their head coach this offseason. Based on what you think and what you've heard from everybody on Inside Coverage and your information, either, neither, or both when you talk about a coach being fired.
I think it's either. I think it's loser leaves town. I think it's. I know you love the '80s wrestling references, Fitz. That's why I do it for you.
This, yes.
I do think this is loser leaves town. I think that the losing coach, if you're Tomlin, if you're the Steelers, all that stuff we talked about Tomlin and the fire Tomlin chance and all that from 3-4 weeks ago, that all comes back if you miss the playoffs. If you blow the 2 winnable games against the Browns and against the Ravens at home, all of the stuff we've been saying about Tomlin when they were struggling comes back. And if the Ravens lose, I think that they have to look at it and say, maybe Lamar and Harbaugh are getting along. The reports about that. Well, who are you going to pick? I'm sorry, John. I'm picking the 2-time MVP quarterback. Maybe he's had his own issues, but I'm not moving on from Lamar Jackson. So I do think whoever loses this game, I do think it's a tough conversation. And I don't think you just fire him like on the tarmac, like you're Lane Kiffin or anything, but you just have a conversation of, we're going to do this the right way. We're going to amicably part ways, but this just isn't working anymore.
All right, we got to fly. So let's get to the next grouping here. Lions, Cowboys, Bengals, Dolphins. That's our next grouping here. I'll ask you this. Of these 4 teams, which team do you have the most faith next year can have a bounce back?
Easily the Lions. I think our metrics are still good. 3rd and DVOA, plus 65, I believe, point differential. All those players we know. Something just win and miss with the Lions this year. But yeah, I think we're back in the playoffs next year.
All right, let's go through the next grouping. Bucks, Falcons, Colts, and Saints. Is right. But I know we don't want to overreact to one game and one result, but did Raheem Morris save his job last night?
It shouldn't be based on that, right? Like, you shouldn't base something on, well, he beat the Rams, we got to keep him around. Is he the right guy or not? And I think it was almost more disappointing for the Falcons to win the way they did last night. And let me explain. Because I think all the Falcons fans are saying, we're good enough to beat the Rams. We're good enough to blow out the Bills. Why are we 7-9? Why do we lose all these? That's a coach. Like, if you're losing games, you shouldn't lose. That's a big part of the coach. I think either is Raheem Morris your guy or not. It shouldn't be, well, he beat the Rams, you got to stick around. I think that's such flawed thinking.
Do you think any of those 4 teams will fire their coach? Obviously not the Saints. We all believe Kellen Moore's good. I would think Shane Steichen's good.
I've been kind of chiding this incredulous report on Sunday morning. Like, how dare you say Todd Bowles is on the hot seat? That man won 3 division titles in a row. Yeah, the worst division of football. He won 3 times in a row. And he's on the verge of going 1-8 down the last 9 games with a healthier team, by the way. This is not like, oh, well, injuries just got him like the Colts. What can you do? No, this team got healthier, and they slid to 1-8 with some inexplicable losses. And we're saying Todd Bowles can't possibly be on the hot seat? Really? Like, whether they keep him around or not, I don't know. Ownership will decide that. But acting like, how dare you say Todd Bowles on what? Like, Todd Bowles has been awful in the second half this year. He should be on the hot seat.
How about our next grouping here? We've got Kansas City, Cleveland, Washington, and the Giants in your next grouping here. Look at this Washington team for a second, because I think we can all agree the Chiefs, fine, it is what it is. I'm not sure there's more to say about how bad the Browns have been. You understood better than anybody that the Commanders were going to make the playoffs last year, and you understood better than anybody that the Commanders were going to step back this year. But 4-12 is drastic. Is this fixable in Washington?
And the problem, Fitz, is they have the oldest roster in the NFL somehow, and the oldest since like 2010 or something crazy. They're the oldest roster since. I've written about it before. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But the point being, for a team that like broke out last year and you're like, this team is young and on the rise because they got Jaden Daniels. No, they have a really old roster. So I think it might take a couple of years now where you just need to reset the roster. You need to get younger somehow. And that doesn't lead to immediate success a lot of times. So I'm not exactly sitting here saying I think the Commanders are going to make it back to the playoffs next year, on top of the fact that now we have to say, this was the question before the draft, right? Can Jaden Daniels stay healthy? I don't know that we know the answer to that. And that's another troubling thing in Washington.
Before we get to the absolute dog doo-doo of the bottom 4 of the NFL, we buy in the reports that the Giants could potentially be in on a quarterback in this draft if Dante Moore decides.
I don't get that. Like, look, if you love Dante Moore or Mendoza or whoever you got a shot to pick, and you are like that, we cannot pass this guy. We got to take. Okay, cool. I do understand that thought. But for people who are like, well, Jackson Dart ain't it. What are we talking about? He's had 10 starts. He's looked pretty good. We're just doing this again. Why do we have this microwave mentality with quarterback development? Jackson Dart has been completely fine as a rookie. Yes, he gets hurt too much. Yes, he plays kind of dumb, like slide once in a while, like just once in a while, Jackson. It's okay, I promise. But we're just dumping him after like 10, 11 starts that have been pretty good. Like, he has like an 89 passer rating. It's not like he's down in the 60s or something. Like, I don't get this. It floors me that people are like, well, I'm out on Jackson Dart already. Really? Like, I thought he's been pretty good. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm dumb. But I actually have enjoyed watching Jackson Dart play football and say, yeah, I want to see this through and see what he's got the next couple of years.
It should be noted the Atlanta result last night changed the strength of schedule enough to guarantee that no matter the outcome, the Raiders and the Giants, in some order, will pick first and second in the NFL draft.
Now, Fitz,
Speaking of
we
which,
didn't talk last week. What'd you feel about the Raiders shenanigans and then getting blown up? Were you like, yes, we get the first pick, or were you like, oh, this is really embarrassing? What are we doing?
I'm literally working on a long form think piece about why having the first overall pick means you're absolutely screwed for a very long time. That's how I feel about it, Frank. More to come. That's a teaser. There's the end of so, man, we ran out of time before we had time to talk about these four. Arizona Titans.
Oh, weird how that happens.
It's crazy. Frank, it's great. This was some of your best rankings, some of the best work you've ever done, and we appreciate you, brother. Happy New Year. Thanks for spending every single week with us. We're not done, but I can't tell you enough. I mean, we talk all the time as friends, but you mean a lot to this show, so we appreciate that you take the time every week to do this and to let everybody just yell at us. It's a Happy New Year in part because you spend time with us every single week, so thank you, brother.
Always appreciate you guys.
Oh, man, cannot wait. Shot and a drink with Frank in San Francisco. That's what I know. Power rankings recap. Seattle number 1. I can't remember who is number 32. Doesn't really matter. Top riser, the 49ers up 6. The top fallers, the Bucks and the Colts, both down 4. Also interesting, Frank, pretty adamant that the Bucks don't deserve a lot of excuses for that free fall. And just a reminder that about a week from today, Caroline, there's going to be a bunch of job openings. So there is still something to play for because the NFL is always wild when it comes to not meeting expectations.
The NFL has been extra wild this year. Call it recency bias. I don't think it is. It feels like the Super Bowl is going to be like somebody's got to win it bowl, because every time we feel like we have a good grasp on the hierarchy of the NFL or the best teams in the NFL. Like last night, we saw the Rams just lay an absolute egg on national television. And it's like, okay, well, now who wants to reveal themselves as the best team in the league or the best teams in respective divisions? Let's point out that the Bucks, with the Falcons winning last night, the Bucks now feel like they're in a very uncomfortable position, because if the Falcons win out, then the Panthers will win that division. So the Bucks find themselves in a very uncomfortable position. To Frank's point, there's not a whole lot of excuses that can be made in Tampa Bay. So a whole lot of teams that have a lot to answer here over the final week of the season and into the postseason.
And in the meantime, the NFL higher-ups in New York can all panic just a little bit at the thought that there's at least a chance that we end up with a Jags versus Panthers Super Bowl, for example, in San Francisco.
I'm here for it.
You and I are here for every ounce of it. I'm not sure that the league would pick those two particular brands to be the brands that they fight for and with. All right, that's it for us. I want to make sure that you guys know we're off the next couple of days for the new year. We'll be back on Friday with the full show. We're back to our regular schedule. It's an incredibly happy new year for us because you guys give us this time every single week. So thank you so much. We will see you Friday. Have a safe New Year's. Thank you, everybody.